Inside rehabilitation centers and hospital corridors, a silent thief moves through the lives of those who have crossed the threshold of their sixth decade. This intruder does not announce itself with pain or sudden collapse, but instead works slowly, dissolving the very foundation that keeps bodies upright and independent. Physicians witness the aftermath daily, watching as men and women arrive not from accidents or disease outbreaks, but from something far more insidious, the gradual disappearance of their muscle tissue. The medical term is sarcopenia, and it represents one of the most overlooked epidemics affecting the aging population. What makes this condition particularly devastating is not merely the loss of strength, but the cascade of consequences that follow. When muscles fade, balance becomes precarious, simple tasks transform into exhausting ordeals, and the freedom to move through the world without assistance slips away one fiber at a time. Yet here lies the most infuriating truth of all. This deterioration is not an inevitable sentence handed down by biology. For years, research has pointed toward powerful nutritional interventions capable of halting and even reversing this decline. The knowledge exists, the science stands solid, but this information remains curiously absent from mainstream conversation. There is a reason for this silence, and it has everything to do with profit margins. Consider the financial ecosystem built around weakness in older adults. Pharmaceutical corporations generate astronomical revenues from medications targeting bone density, inflammation, and chronic pain, all symptoms that worsen as muscle mass evaporates. Supplement manufacturers peddle expensive powders and capsules that make bold promises but deliver minimal results. Even the global seafood industry plays a role, exporting the most nutrient-dense catches to premium markets while those who need them most remain uninformed about their therapeutic potential. This is not conspiracy, but simple economics. When food can solve a problem, there is no recurring revenue stream, no patented formula, no lifetime dependency. The business model crumbles when people discover they can reclaim their strength through what they eat rather than what they purchase from a pharmacy shelf. So the information stays buried, and millions continue their slow descent into frailty. But the ocean holds answers that refuse to stay hidden forever. Certain seafoods contain such concentrated nutritional profiles that they function less like meals and more like medicine delivered through flavor and texture. These are not exotic superfoods requiring international shipping or specialty stores. They are accessible, affordable, and backed by rigorous scientific investigation. What they offer is nothing short of a lifeline for those watching their bodies betray them. Take the humble crab, often relegated to vacation dinners and special occasions. Beneath the shell lies approximately 20 grams of pristine protein in a single serving, delivered with minimal fat and maximum efficiency. Unlike the processed meats that clog arteries and trigger inflammation, crab provides lean fuel that muscles can immediately deploy for repair and reconstruction. The protein alone would be valuable, but crab brings additional gifts in the form of zinc, a mineral absolutely critical for tissue regeneration and immune function. Without adequate zinc, the body enters a state of perpetual breakdown, unable to heal wounds or replace damaged fibers at the rate they deteriorate. This creates a downward spiral where every movement costs more than the body can recover. Gerald discovered this firsthand at 70 years old when his doctor delivered concerning news about declining grip strength and reduced walking speed. These were not abstract measurements but real limitations affecting his ability to carry groceries or navigate his own home with confidence. During a family gathering, Gerald tried steamed crab after years of avoiding seafood in favor of burgers and heavier fare. Something in that meal sparked a change he could not ignore. He began incorporating crab into his weekly routine, pairing it with vegetables instead of fried sides. Within weeks, tasks that had become struggles started feeling manageable again. Grocery bags no longer strained his arms, and the morning stiffness that had become his constant companion began to ease. The combination of protein, zinc, and vitamin B12 gave his muscles permission to rebuild rather than simply endure. The beauty of crab as a therapeutic food lies in its simplicity. Steam it fresh, crack the shell with your hands, squeeze lemon over the meat, and consume one of the cleanest nutrient packages available to aging bodies. No heavy sauces masking the benefits, no deep frying that introduces inflammation. Just pure, bioavailable nutrition that muscles recognize and use immediately. But crab represents only the beginning. Mollusks, those small unassuming shellfish, deliver an even more targeted assault on muscle deterioration. Clams, mussels, and oysters pack remarkable concentrations of lean protein, but their true power emerges from their iron and vitamin B12 content. Iron serves as the delivery system for oxygen throughout the bloodstream, and without it, muscles essentially suffocate at the cellular level. This oxygen deprivation manifests as fatigue, weakness, and the inability to sustain even moderate activity. Vitamin B12 operates on a different front, fueling the nerve cells that send signals telling muscles when and how to contract. When B12 levels drop, which happens frequently in older adults, the communication system between brain and body starts failing. Muscles receive garbled messages or no messages at all, resulting in poor coordination, weakness, and the foggy mental state that many assume is simply age catching up. Rosa understood this reality at 69 when climbing the stairs to her apartment became an ordeal requiring rest breaks halfway up. She attributed her exhaustion to the inevitable march of time until blood tests revealed deficiencies in both iron. Rosa did not join a gym, hire a trainer, or invest in expensive supplements. She simply gave her body the raw materials it had been desperately requesting. Steamed clams with garlic and olive oil, mussels tossed in tomato broth, fresh oysters with lemon juice. These preparations kept the nutrients intact and bioavailable, allowing her muscles to absorb what they needed without interference from heavy fats or excessive processing. The lesson repeating itself through these stories is straightforward yet profound. Sarcopenia thrives in nutritional voids, spaces where the body lacks the specific compounds required for maintenance and repair. Fill those voids with targeted foods, and the trajectory changes. Muscles that were shrinking begin stabilizing. Strength that seemed permanently lost starts returning. The decline that felt inevitable reveals itself as reversible. This is not about miraculous transformations overnight or unrealistic promises of youth restored. It is about understanding that your body retains the capacity to rebuild itself when given the proper tools. The ocean provides those tools in abundance, wrapped in shells and delivered through simple meals that require no advanced culinary skills. What stands between vulnerability and vitality is often just knowledge, the awareness that food can fight back against the forces trying to steal your independence. The progression from merely surviving to genuinely thriving often hinges on understanding what your body truly needs rather than what marketing campaigns convince you to purchase. Scallops enter this conversation as a frequently overlooked therapeutic food, dismissed by many as luxury restaurant fare when they should be recognized as concentrated medicine in edible form. Each tender piece delivers roughly 17 grams of high-quality protein in a 3-ounce serving, wrapped in such minimal fat that even compromised digestive systems handle them with ease. But protein alone does not explain why scallops produce such remarkable effects in aging bodies. Their unique mineral composition sets them apart, offering a precise balance of magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium that keeps muscles contracting smoothly and nerves firing with accuracy. When these minerals fall below optimal levels, the entire system begins misfiring. Muscles cramp without warning, movements become uncertain and shaky, and fatigue settles in like a permanent fog that no amount of rest can clear. Denise confronted this reality at 66 while working in her garden, the place where she had always found peace and purpose. Suddenly her arms and legs were cramping during activities that once required no thought, and kneeling to tend her plants left her sore for days afterward. Her physician mentioned low magnesium levels and suggested supplementation, but Denise chose a different path. She began preparing seared scallops once weekly, cooking them simply in olive oil with a hint of garlic. Within weeks, the cramping that had made her question whether she could continue gardening began subsiding. Her stamina returned, and the soreness that used to linger for days disappeared. What she had interpreted as irreversible aging turned out to be a correctable deficiency, and scallops provided the correction in a form her body recognized and absorbed efficiently. No complicated regimen, no bottles of pills sitting on her counter. Just real food delivering real results. For seniors who often feel bloated or uncomfortable after eating meat, scallops offer a gentler alternative that still meets the protein requirements muscles demand. They are easy to chew, light on the stomach, and quick to prepare. A simple sear creates restaurant-quality nutrition without restaurant prices, making therapeutic eating accessible rather than aspirational. This accessibility matters profoundly because consistency determines outcomes, and people cannot maintain habits that feel expensive or complicated. Yet as impressive as scallops prove themselves to be, octopus operates on an entirely different level of nutritional intensity. This creature, often considered exotic or intimidating, delivers nearly 25 grams of protein per 3-ounce serving with almost no fat content whatsoever. That protein density alone positions octopus as a muscle-building powerhouse, but its real distinction lies in an amino acid called taurine, a compound that functions like internal armor for aging muscle tissue. Taurine protects muscles from oxidative stress, the cellular damage that accumulates with age and accelerates deterioration. It also improves contraction efficiency, allowing muscles to generate more force with less effort and recover more quickly after exertion. Without adequate taurine, muscles tire faster, grow weaker between uses, and lose their resilience. The slow erosion continues until activities that once felt natural become impossible to sustain. Leonard experienced this decline firsthand after retirement, watching his legs betray him on stairs and feeling his calves cramp during walks that should have been pleasant. At 72, he assumed his active years were simply ending. Then a Mediterranean trip with his wife introduced him to grilled octopus, a staple in the local diet that he had never considered before. Curious about why these communities seemed to maintain strength later in life, Leonard began incorporating octopus into his weekly meals after returning home. Several months passed before he fully recognized the changes occurring. His stamina improved noticeably, the cramping that had plagued him faded into memory, and distances that used to leave him exhausted became manageable again. This was not magic or wishful thinking. Taurine, copper, and pristine protein were restoring functions that age had quietly dismantled, giving Leonard back activities he thought were permanently lost. The versatility of octopus makes it practical for regular consumption. Grilled and dressed with olive oil and lemon, stewed in tomato sauce, or sliced thin for salads, it adapts to various preparations while maintaining its therapeutic compounds. The key lies in simplicity, avoiding heavy batters or excessive sodium that would undermine the nutritional benefits. Fresh octopus prepared with basic seasonings delivers everything muscles need without the inflammatory additions that processed foods sneak into every meal. While octopus recharges cellular function from within, oysters approach muscle preservation from a completely different angle, one that focuses on the micronutrients most adults become deficient in without ever knowing. Oysters contain more zinc than any other food source on the planet, a distinction that transforms them from delicacy into therapeutic necessity. Zinc rebuilds damaged tissue, supports hormone production including testosterone, and powers the enzymes responsible for repairing muscle fibers after they break down from use or injury. Without sufficient zinc, the body exists in a constant state of breakdown, unable to keep pace with the daily damage that accumulates in muscle tissue. This imbalance accelerates sarcopenia, turning what should be a slow age-related process into a rapid decline. Oysters also provide iron and vitamin B12 in highly bioavailable forms, meaning the body can extract and utilize these nutrients far more efficiently than from synthetic supplements that often pass through the digestive system largely unused. Elaine never considered zinc deficiency until her doctor explained at 68 that her weakening immune system and declining muscle strength were connected to this missing mineral. She felt perpetually sore after basic household tasks, and her hands tired quickly when carrying even light shopping bags. During a coastal weekend trip, she tried fresh oysters for the first time and felt compelled to research their nutritional profile afterward. What she discovered convinced her to add oysters to her diet every couple of weeks. Months later, Elaine could not ignore the improvements. Her recovery time after physical activity shortened dramatically, her energy levels stabilized throughout the day, and her grip strength returned enough that opening jars no longer required assistance. The chronic soreness she had accepted as permanent began lifting. What felt like aging was actually starvation at the cellular level, and oysters were feeding systems that had been running on empty for years. The optimal way to consume oysters for therapeutic benefit involves keeping them as close to their natural state as possible. Fresh and steamed, lightly baked without heavy sauces, or raw with lemon juice to enhance mineral absorption. These simple preparations preserve the compounds that make oysters so powerful while keeping the meal light enough that even sensitive digestive systems tolerate them well. This matters because the best nutrition in the world provides no benefit if the body cannot process and absorb it. What emerges from examining these mid-tier seafoods is a pattern of targeted intervention. Each one addresses specific deficiencies that conventional diets fail to correct. Delivering concentrated doses of minerals and amino acids in forms the body evolved to recognize and use. Scallops restore the electrolyte balance that keeps muscles firing correctly. Octopus provides taurine protection against oxidative damage. Oysters flood the system with zinc that repairs tissue faster than age can destroy it. Together, these foods create momentum in the fight against sarcopenia, pushing back against decline with tangible, measurable results. They prove that pharmaceutical interventions are not the only answer, and often not even the best answer. Real food, prepared simply and eaten consistently, can accomplish what pills and powders promise but rarely deliver. The ocean has already solved the problem. The only question is whether people will access the solution before weakness becomes permanent. The boundary between suffering and relief often comes down to inflammation, that invisible fire burning inside joints and muscle tissue that accelerates every form of deterioration the body experiences with age. Sea cucumbers address this problem with a directness that surprises those unfamiliar with their therapeutic history. These strange marine creatures have sustained Asian cultures for centuries as strength foods, and modern research now confirms what traditional wisdom always understood. They contain unique compounds called triterpene glycosides, molecules with profound anti-inflammatory properties that create conditions where muscle tissue can finally repair instead of continually breaking down. Inflammation operates as a silent destroyer, consuming healthy tissue while blocking the recovery mechanisms that would normally restore what daily activity damages. This creates an impossible situation where every movement costs more than the body can rebuild, leading to the steady erosion that defines sarcopenia. By reducing systemic inflammation, sea cucumbers essentially remove the barrier preventing muscles from accessing their own regenerative capacity. The growth potential was always present, just suppressed by chemical signals telling the body to break down rather than build up. Walter discovered this truth at 71 when constant knee pain convinced him his gardening days had reached their end. He had resigned himself to watching his beloved plants from a distance until his daughter, who had studied nutrition abroad, introduced him to traditional sea cucumber soup during a family dinner. Skepticism came naturally to Walter, but curiosity won out, and he began consuming the soup weekly. Time passed slowly, but changes accumulated steadily. The stiffness in his knees gradually released its grip, his overall energy climbed to levels he had not felt in years, and bending down to tend his garden transformed from impossible to merely difficult, then finally to manageable. This was not miraculous overnight healing but rather consistent intake slowly dismantling the inflammatory barriers that had imprisoned his mobility. The collagen and anti-inflammatory compounds in sea cucumbers gave Walter something he thought age had permanently revoked: the chance to continue activities that gave his life meaning and purpose. Sea cucumbers adapt to various preparations, from stews to dried and rehydrated forms, making them practical for regular consumption. They sit gently on aging digestive systems, require minimal chewing, and deliver concentrated nutrition without excess calories. Think of them as a slow-release restoration system, working quietly in the background to keep bodies upright and mobile for years longer than decline would otherwise allow. Yet even sea cucumbers, powerful as they prove themselves, cannot match the comprehensive nutritional assault that lobster brings to the fight against muscle loss. Often dismissed as celebration food reserved for special occasions, lobster delivers over 25 grams of pristine protein per serving with negligible saturated fat, making it one of the leanest animal proteins available to human consumption. This protein quality alone would justify its inclusion, but lobster distinguishes itself through a mineral combination that few foods can replicate: selenium, zinc, and phosphorus working in concert to protect cells, strengthen bones, and keep muscles firing correctly. Selenium functions as an internal defense system against oxidative stress, the cellular damage that accumulates relentlessly with each passing year. Phosphorus partners with calcium to maintain bone density strong enough to support the muscle mass you are working to rebuild, because stronger muscles require stronger skeletal foundations. This synergy matters profoundly, as isolated nutrients rarely produce the same effects as compounds working together in their natural ratios. Evelyn understood this at 74 when she noticed kitchen work, once effortless, had become exhausting. Carrying pots felt increasingly difficult, and her arms seemed to weaken month by month. During a vacation, she enjoyed lobster for the first time in years and made the deliberate choice to incorporate it monthly into her diet. The results unfolded gradually but undeniably. Over time, standing at the stove for meal preparation became sustainable again, lifting heavier cookware stopped feeling impossible, and keeping pace with her grandchildren during park visits transformed from fantasy back into reality. Lobster was not merely a treat for Evelyn but rather a strategic weapon in her campaign to maintain independence and capability. Simple preparation preserves its therapeutic power. Steamed or grilled with lemon provides complete muscle-protecting nutrition without heavy butter or sauces that introduce inflammatory fats. For seniors, it represents clean, digestible, nutrient-dense fuel that pushes back against the weakness trying to steal their autonomy one day at a time. But standing above all these powerful foods, occupying the pinnacle of muscle-preserving nutrition, sits an unlikely champion that most people would not recognize as edible. Sea urchins, with their spiny exteriors and alien appearance, contain beneath their shells one of the most concentrated sources of therapeutic compounds found anywhere in the ocean. They provide omega-3 fatty acids, exceptional protein, and most crucially, a rare antioxidant called echinochrome A that protects cells from the oxidative stress driving muscle breakdown and accelerated aging. Unlike standard proteins that simply provide building blocks, sea urchins deliver nutrients operating at the mitochondrial level, keeping the tiny engines inside muscle fibers running efficiently even as decades accumulate. This cellular protection translates into tangible outcomes: better energy production, faster recovery, sustained strength. Clinical studies have demonstrated that compounds in sea urchins can reverse frailty in older adults already experiencing significant muscle loss, restoring function that appeared permanently gone. Harold confronted this possibility at 70 after hip surgery left him feeling fragile and defeated. Physical therapy helped incrementally, but progress crawled, and exhaustion made him question whether recovery was even achievable. During a visit with his son abroad, Harold tried sea urchin, expecting nothing beyond culinary novelty. He decided to incorporate it regularly into his diet, and something fundamental shifted. His energy improved noticeably, therapy sessions that once drained him completely became manageable, and his legs began regaining strength at a pace that surprised his medical team. What conventional medicine and expensive supplements could not fully accomplish, this strange spiny creature provided cellular-level recovery that allowed Harold to reclaim mobility and independence. The key with sea urchins lies in moderation and proper preparation. They taste best fresh, raw, or minimally cooked to preserve their delicate therapeutic compounds. The creamy roe contains the molecules that fight inflammation and fuel regeneration, transforming them from exotic food into functional medicine for anyone determined to keep walking, lifting, and living fully past 60. This is why sea urchins claim the highest position. They do not simply supply protein or minerals. They grant muscles the ability to regenerate at the cellular level, joints the capacity to support movement without pain, and energy the permission to return after years of depletion. They stand as proof that sometimes the strangest sources hold the most potent answers to problems modern medicine struggles to solve. Together, these 8 seafoods create a complete defense system against the muscle loss that society accepts as inevitable. From crab providing foundational protein and zinc, through mollusks delivering iron and B12, scallops restoring mineral balance, octopus protecting with taurine, oysters flooding systems with tissue-repairing zinc, sea cucumbers dismantling inflammation, lobster offering lean comprehensive nutrition, to sea urchins regenerating at the deepest cellular level. Each addresses a specific vulnerability, and together they form an arsenal against weakness, falls, and the slow decline most people mistake for normal aging. But now you understand differently. Sarcopenia is not destiny written in your genes but rather a condition you can actively resist. The ocean has already provided the weapons. Your plate becomes the battlefield where you either surrender to decline or choose to fight back with every meal every week, building strength that lets you carry groceries, play with grandchildren, tend gardens, and move through the world on your own terms for years longer than weakness would otherwise permit. Feed your muscles wisely, and they will carry you further than resignation ever could.